All right, we've got a new Palantir video. This video has to do with the ontology, scalable oil and gas infrastructure. We know that Palantir works very deeply in the oil and gas industry. One of their first big deals and contracts was with British Petroleum BP. So I have not seen this video. I'm reacting to it right now as you all are listening. And let's take a look at what Palantir has to say about ontological scalable oil and gas infrastructure.
The Palantir Foundry ontology is a unique category of software. It's the key differentiator for us. It's what you thought you were getting when you were promised a digital twin. Some of the most sophisticated players in the space, BP, Exxon, Apache, Kinder Morgan, are already using it as a base plate on which to unify, act, and build. For IT, the ontology means support doesn't need to multiply every time you make a new tech investment. IT can leverage a base plate that brings stability and adaptability to the organization's architecture, maximizing the value of all current and future investments.
So already there, before they go a little bit more deeper into it, ontology, for those that don't know what the definition of the word means, like philosophically, it's a word that's taught in philosophy classes in college. It means the state of being, right? So if I say the ontological nature of that chair is for people to sit on it, then the ontology of the chair is for people to sit, right? That's the state of being of the chair. The ontology of you as an individual might be compressed through a million different external variables, right, that make up who you are, but that is your state of being. So when Palantir talks about ontology, they're talking about what is the state of being of an organization, of a government, of a nonprofit agency, of a any institution, of a company, obviously. And can we understand the state of being of that organization through data? Because if you're an organization, let's say a company, for example, you have sales, marketing, you've got accounting, you've got supply chains, you've got all these different elements to your business. But what is the state of being of your business? What is the ontology of your business? How do we know how your business is functioning? How do we know how your business is operating? How do we know if it's effective, it's efficient, all of these things? And what Palantir is doing from an ontological perspective is bringing all those pieces of data within a single source of truth to give you that definition of what is the state of being of your company. And obviously in the oil and gas infrastructure areas from companies like Kinder Morgan, Exxon, Apache, BP, a lot of them have been seeing value in using this framework.
For the business, the ontology enables you to understand the impact of every decision before you make it. To understand what this really means, think of the complex data and model landscape that underlies your physical assets. Sensors that have been live for decades, SCADA systems that have been around for years, a fiber optic cable installed a few months ago, a maintenance work order from yesterday, physics models about reservoir performance, and surface network models about your facilities. The ontology synchronizes these diverse stores of data and models, no matter where they live, into one place. Within the ontology itself, millions of rows and columns of data are woven into an elastic fabric of real-world concepts, like a rig or a well. By bringing the digital world in line with the physical world, all applications, problems, and opportunities associated with a real-world well in Texas, for example, are then associated with the corresponding digital object. But the ontology doesn't just capture objects. It also captures the processes and actions of your business, concepts, the kinetic relationships between them, and an organization's analytics all exist in a dynamic system. This gives our oil and gas customers a common language with which to view data and to act, driving collaboration and interconnected feedback loops across geographies, teams, assets, and business lines.
Now, that's really important as well, because when it says that you get a viewpoint of your business attached to the digital version of your business, that's kind of like the whole digital twin concept, which is like, you've got this happening in your business. Here's a digital simulation of what could happen in this scenario, this scenario, this scenario, and this scenario at the intersection of all of these other variables. So it's like, you've got something that's leaking here, but your supply chains are less efficient here to fix the leak. So if you want to fix the leak and you want to order parts maybe from this supply chain, you could order parts to fix the leak. You've got oil rigs that you should be drilling in this area, but it has these side effects. Like, there's all these different decisions that an organization has to make. And that's the philosophical value from a commercial perspective of Palantir. Either you believe the next decade is a world in which data-driven decision-making is going to impact a company's bottom line and as a result, their share price, to maximize shareholder value, or you think it's not going to happen. It's almost like in 2000, do you believe the internet was going to transform businesses or not? And it's like, well, it did, right? E-commerce was a thing, and most companies have to have an e-commerce division if they're direct to consumer. as a result of that, if all organizations, governments, companies in the world are going to have data-driven decision-making, if they can have an ontological replication, a digital twin, a simulation of their business attached through all the collaborative processes that are happening within the organization into a single source of truth, which is the ontological framework, then you could imagine that being used in a lot of use cases. This video in particular is about scalable oil and gas infrastructure, which is a very big use case of trying to make decisions based upon a bunch of things that are happening within the organization. And obviously that could be fit into a lot of different verticals. But that is one thing that, at least from a tech perspective, you don't see a lot of companies doing, which is where Palantir has its pseudo monopoly, as long as they can figure out how to scale and execute the sales process of that business.
They can leverage data that was once only useful for one point solution against every other adjacent workflow, all while accounting for their permissions and security. Applications within Foundry or any third-party tools can wield the ontology. Companies can combine inputs from across their business, from any source, any application, any model. This harmonizes and maximizes their existing technology investments, meaning they don't need to keep adding duplicative solutions and can decommission tools that aren't adding value. See what the ontology can do. Reach out to us to see it in action.
Okay, so this was obviously a sales pitch by Palantir around ontology, but the case they're making it makes a lot of sense at the end of the day. There is a particular way an organization can make decisions and extract value from the software that is helping them make these decisions and cut the things that are not valuable. But do you even know how to cut them in the first place? Do you know how to extract value? Do you know the type of value you're getting? Do you know how to put all these things in relationship to one another so that they are adjacent to your other workflows that you are operationalizing data from? These are the questions that the ontology can answer. And I remember researching Palantir's ontology back in November 2021 and really trying to understand what they were going for here, because I did debate and philosophy in high school. And so that word ontology is a special word to me because I've used it my entire life as I've been making philosophical arguments. I did competitive debate. I was, one of the top 5 debaters in the country back in 2016. So ontology and the debates around philosophy, it always spoke to me. It's kind of why I like Palantir, because Alex Karp's very philosophical. And it makes sense why they chose that word, because again, the state of being of an organization is only predicated through the decisions that organization can make to increase the efficacy of the business. And to make those decisions, you need to know what your business is from a data perspective. What is the being of the business? And all of that comes from the interoperability of data being sourced in a single place, and then to be able to make an analysis from it. Now, oil and gas is a great place for them to be able to make this argument. Obviously, energy is going to change dramatically over the next 10 years. There's going to be a probably very strong electric revolution. It doesn't mean oil and gas is going to be phased out, but it does mean a lot of startups, a lot of companies are going to be implementing a new form of how we consume in the modern day when it comes to energy. And energy is like the backbone over the economy. If we don't have energy, we have nothing. And so big companies trusting Palantir's data operational system like Foundry to be able to make decisions on how they deliver energy, which at the end of the day is second to food, first to food. It is one of the most vital things a company can provide as a service to the public. Using Palantir as the backbone. By the way, PG&E also uses them to track wildfires and different things that are going on. It is a relevant thing for them to pick this example in order to highlight ontology as a sales tool. And there's probably a lot of other examples that they can use. Supply chain and logistics, I think the biggest, especially after the COVID pandemic and what's going on in Russia and Ukraine. That's why investing in Palantir is so interesting, because their supply chain ontology product can be applied to a commercial business that's been disrupted from Russia and Ukraine, and it can be applied to the actual warfighting, mission-critical stuff that Ukraine needs to be able to beat Russia from the Gotham perspective, even though it's still using some of that same data optimization, operationalizing of workflows. So very interesting stuff. This was the ontology for scalable gas and oil infrastructure. Let me know your guys' thoughts. Thanks so much for listening and watching. I'll see you in the next one.